being done for nearby residents. We hear you talking today about wanting to move the phase along. Can you talk to us about the concerns from people flocking to the beaches now from outside areas, especially from nearby outbreak areas? And is there any kind of plan to have Ocean City Police patrol this? Meaning, will they be checking licenses from folks? And if those licenses are not from within the Ocean City area, what happens then? Or, can you talk about patrolling, please?
No, there will be no police officers patrolling for license plates. I don't believe has been done throughout the state of Maryland anywhere. And that's not going to be the case here in Ocean City. Yeah, we do expect people from the surrounding areas and some of the areas to come into Ocean City. Quite honestly, they've probably been coming here already. And we also have some non-resident property owners that have been here for quite an extended period of time. That now they'll be able to go outside, or they've been able to go outside, but go to the beach and go to the boardwalk. And, as we move closer to summer, we see more and more of those non-resident property owners from other states traveling to Ocean City to open up their condominiums to, get settled in for the summer season. So we anticipate that, that is going to continue. But, we have to look to people to do the right thing. The governor's stay-at-home order, if you look at that, most people have complied. And I think people will continue to comply. I think everybody realizes the more we work together, the more we adhere to the restrictions and the regulations, the sooner we're going to be able for the state to move to phase one of the governor's recovery plan, and then for all of us to continue to move forward. So we're looking at this as a positive way to make that transition. Is there a perfect answer to anything that we do in these unprecedented times? Probably not. But we're going to have to move forward. We're going to have to see now early on what things we may need to readdress or what problems we may need to address so that we can continue to keep people safe and move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We now have Matthew Prensky, Delmarva Now.
So, Mr. Mayor, my question was, I see you smiling, but my question to you—
It's good to hear from you. It's good to see you.
It's good to hear from you too. My question to you is, was there any discussions you had with the governor's office about this? Because Ocean City does play a big part in the state of Maryland.
I have had conversations with the governor. I spoke to him as recent as last Friday. Hope to speak with him again this week. The governor, we've been very supportive of the governor's plans. As I said, I don't think we'd be where we are today in the state of Maryland if the governor hadn't taken the stance he originally did, and he stayed very consistent with that. Yes, I did talk to him about the fact that we were planning to open our beaches May 15th, but I was looking to move that date back or forward, however you want to put it, to May 9th, so that we could ease that transition as we move forward. I know that the governor is looking at phase one of his recovery plan. I'm not sure exactly when he's going to take action on that, but I think he's following the course that he's laid out. He's been very consistent. I think he'll continue to do that. So we're hoping to continue to work with the state and support the governor's initiatives.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Next up, we have Kate Ryan from WTOP, Washington, D.C.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to check on again the first question that you were asked about residents versus visitors. How do you make that determination? Are masks going to be required? And what kind of either enforcement or education will take place?
Well, I think the education hopefully has been out there throughout the state, throughout this country over the last 50 days. And I think people have listened. I think people are adhering to that. There's no requirement in the state to wear masks in public at this time. We certainly would encourage people if they would feel more comfortable. That's a personal decision, something we would encourage. Everybody has to make their own personal decisions right now. We will be, we're in the process of posting social or physical distancing signs all along all entrances to the beach, the boardwalk, all along our boardwalk. We're on the boardwalk working now to make sure we adhere to whatever we can to encourage social distancing, physical distancing along our right-of-ways. We will be, the police will be patrolling the boardwalk. The police presence and being able to converse with people to give them instructions, or at least to bring to their attention when or not they may not be properly distanced. We're going to continue to do those things. You know, voluntary compliance is what we've all been looking for. I think we've seen a great deal of that. This won't succeed nationwide without voluntary compliance. You can't patrol everywhere. You can't be everywhere. And as I said before, you know, I think a great majority of the people are adhering to these regulations, and I think they will continue to do so.
We're going to go to Scott Broom, WUSA 9, Washington, D.C.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, Mayor Rick. Thanks for taking the call. Since I've got one shot at this, let me run a couple of things by you. First of all, just a declarative statement from you for people who are from outside the direct area there. Is this an invitation to come down? What is your message to them specifically? And the second question is going to be about reservations. I've seen much traffic on social media that, you know, hotels are taking reservations beginning end of the month. I'm not sure what the truth of that is. Perhaps you've got some insight. So first is, what is your message to people from outside the area who might want to come down? And two, what about future hotel reservations and the timeline for that? And thanks for the answers.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Both good questions. You know, we encourage people to follow the governor's stay-at-home orders. And there are stay-at-home orders throughout the Mid-Atlantic area. And, you know, people need to make their own decisions. But those are the orders that are in place. And we would strongly encourage people to continue to follow those stay-at-home orders. What was the second question?
I'm potting him back up. Go ahead, Scott.
It was about hotel reservations and social media traffic suggesting that hotels are preparing to open up and when that might happen.
I apologize. The declaration that was previously passed restricts hotels from renting to anybody but essential lodgers up until May 22nd. From May 22nd on, they are able to take reservations. So right now it's restricted. That restriction will be lifted on May 22nd.
Give Phil Davis from the Baltimore Sun.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time to talk with me, Mr. Mayor Meehan. I don't want to belabor the point, but we had spoken with the governor's office last night specifically about whether or not it would be against the governor's orders to have people from within the state outside of the Ocean City region traveling there, and they said yes. I'm curious, when you say you talked to the governor's office about issuing this order, what conversations have you had in terms of whether or not it violates any of the executive orders that have been put into place, and what is your interpretation of whether or not people from outside the area should be allowed to into that area?
Okay. The declaration to close the beach and the boardwalk was done by the mayor of Ocean City. And we took that initiative early on to put a full court press on in Ocean City in support of the governor's initiatives and the governor's stay-at-home order. And we believe that that was the right path to take. What we do believe now is that by reopening the beach to the general public, not just Ocean City residents, will allow us to transition with crowds that are going to be much, much smaller today than they might be a month from now or 2 months from now. You know, even if we waited till June 15th or July 1st and did that all at one time, the numbers of people would just be above and beyond what we could handle in order to get a true gauge on how this is going to work and how it's going to play out. I don't think it's in violation of any of the general orders enacted by the governor, because we are not asking anyone to supersede the travel restrictions that are in place.
I'm going to go to Joe. You can unmute Joe from WBOC. Oh, you're up now. Joe Cormian from WBOC.
Hi, Mayor. How are you today?
Good.
So having lived here for a while and seeing Ocean City swell to the second largest city in Maryland every year, you must be aware that these people are going to literally flock to Ocean City as soon as you lift these restrictions. What if you do see a surge in Ocean City? You're going to shut it back down?
You know, I don't really think that's what's going to happen. You know, we're only at the first weekend in May, and typically even in this time of year, our crowds are much smaller than they're going to be as you get into the end of the month or into June and particularly into July. So I think that's why the transition period really works. Hotels aren't even open now. There's no condo rentals. None of those type of facilities are available at the present time. So again, that's going to allow us to transition. And, not everybody's going to travel right away. We all have to individually make decisions on what we're going to do and how this particular very serious COVID-19 virus affects us. And I think many of the individuals will decide now is probably not the time for them to travel, even after we begin to open back up. So I think there's a lot of unknowns out there. I think we're trying to set the president's plan for the future and do it in a manner that we can control, and a manner that will get us further along, not just maybe faster, but also with a little more knowledge of what we're going to see as we continue to transition.
We'll go to Kylie Panetta from WMDT.
Hi, Mayor Meehan. So I have a few separate questions.
Okay.
The first two are kind of logistics. So are you guys, I know that typically lifeguards are on duty starting Memorial Day. Are you guys at all planning to have lifeguards on duty earlier than that because of these, the opening? And what's the situation as well with the comfort stations, the bathrooms being open? I know previously you guys said that that's kind of an at your own risk kind of thing. And those are my first two, and then I had one follow-up as well.
Okay. The lifeguards will be in the stands on Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. That is the date that they always go on duty. Prior to that, we do not encourage anybody to go into the ocean before the lifeguards are on duty, and that has not changed. That'll still be what we will suggest to people. There's no percentage in going out into the ocean before the lifeguards are on duty, but that's consistent with the way it's been every year. We do expect to have the same number of guards available Memorial Day weekend 2020 as we had in 2019. The comfort stations along the boardwalk, they will begin to open. They're not all going to open this weekend, but they will begin to open and they will be available. People are going to have to monitor themselves when they use public facilities such as this. We're going to do everything we can to keep them clean, safe, continually monitor that. But everybody's just going to have to monitor themselves as well, which is something I think is consistent with all activities that we're going to experience, at least in the short term.
Kylie, I'll have to come back to you on that follow-up just to get through a few folks who hadn't had a chance to ask a first question, and I'll go to Lowell Melser with WBAL.
How are ya?
Hi, Lowell.
Hey, quick question, and I apologize if you've already asked this. I came in late to the conversation. As far as enforcement, how will you make sure that people are not full-time residents that are coming down there? And if they're caught, will they face a citation or a warning? And then to piggyback on that, if someone owns a house down there and they decide to come down for the weekend because everyone is stir crazy to get out of their house, get out of their homes, would they be okay if they are a homeowner in Ocean City?
Well, you are late to the game, Lowell. We have talked about those, but that's okay. We cannot encourage anybody to travel, in conflict to the governor's stay-at-home order, and we don't intend to do that. Second homeowners do have the rights to be in their property. Everybody has to make their own personal decision about what the right thing to do is. We have not stopped anybody from coming into Ocean City. I don't believe the state has stopped anybody from traveling to or from the state of Maryland. At some point you have to rely on people to do the right thing. And as I've said before, said earlier, most people do the right thing. And we have to continue to rely on that if we're all going to work together to guide our way through this COVID-19 virus. There's always going to be a few that are going to think that they're the exception to the rule, or it only applies to everybody else, and that's unfortunate. But they are the exception. We do expect to see, as the weather gets warmer, more people travel to Ocean City, more second homeowners wanting to get to their property to stay here, and we understand that. We just hope everybody makes good decisions, acts responsibly, and does their very best to comply with all the orders that have been issued both by the state and by the town of Ocean City.
Go back to Kate Ryan. I think WTOP had one quick follow-up.
Okay, Kate.
Thank you very much. I did want to wonder if you're getting any pressure from the reopen movement, and do you have concerns that people who have been demonstrating at various locations, and it's been nationwide, we've seen a large demonstration in Boston recently. Are you concerned? And again, is this in part reaction to pressure to reopen?
Oh, absolutely not. I didn't react to the pressure that was against us closing the beach and boardwalk initially, or restricting the hotel and rental industry to essential lodgers only. I did what I thought was right, and we did that. Moving forward, I'm doing what I think is the right thing to do for Ocean City, the right thing to do for our residents and our visitors, with the caution to everybody to please do what you think is the right thing to do. Just because the beach is open, maybe you don't feel comfortable going to the beach, don't go to the beach. You know, we're all going to have to, throughout the next few months, hopefully not a whole lot longer than that, but we don't know, make those individual decisions. And I had the support of the business community to close the beach, the boardwalk, and the support of the hotel industry and the rental and the lodging industry to restrict rentals, because they want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I think that will continue. So we'll continue to make the decisions we think are necessary based on the facts and how they best fit Ocean City, and allow us to continue to move forward, but at the same time, always make a number one priority the safety of our residents, our employees, and our visitors.
I want to go back to Matthew Prensky with Delmarva Now had a quick follow-up. Matthew.
I wanted to ask you, I know the Delaware beaches are taking a very different strategy to what Ocean City's doing. It's a bit of an apples to oranges comparison, but how do you look at what Ocean City's doing versus your neighbors very close to the north?
Okay. I have been in contact with the mayors in the Delaware beaches. I was on a meeting very similar to this with all the mayors of Delaware, and we're taking a bit of a different approach. I think we're ahead of them a little bit. You know, if you look at the beaches in Ocean City, you know, we have 10 miles of beaches. Our beaches are in absolutely fantastic shape. They're as wide as they've ever been. We have so much more beach area for people to social distance and to spread out than you're going to find in the Delaware beaches. And I think that, you know, along that 10-mile stretch, if everybody adheres to the physical social distancing, we should be okay. Just because of the mere size of our beaches, we are so much different than those Delaware beaches.
Okay, and then I think probably have time for one more question here, and I'm just checking through. It looks like Stephanie from Fox 5 had a quick follow-up.
Okay, Stephanie?
Hi, Mayor. Just to follow up, and forgive the ignorance here, but I just want to clarify. When you say that the beaches and the boardwalks are open, this means that people can come and hang out for several hours. This is not going to be a directive to keep moving, as we've seen in other beaches in other parts of the country.
No, the beaches will be open. Again, and I don't like to repeat too many phrases, but social distancing will be adhered to. You know, we want people, it's best if they keep moving. You know, you don't want them standing around in crowds and having those numbers build up. Our police officers will be on the boardwalk, in vehicles, on bikes, on horseback, you know, just to make sure that, you know, that doesn't occur. But no, people don't have to keep moving in that sense. It is more of a general reopening. But that's really what it's going to be. It's going to be people riding bikes. It's going to be people walking the boardwalk. It's going to be people out there in small groups with their families, just getting out to go out onto the beach. The boardwalk shops aren't going to be open. The boardwalk tram isn't going to be running, you know, so there really aren't going to be a lot of things to do other than to just enjoy being outside.
Thanks to everyone who attended here today. Mr. Mayor, I think we're up against our half-hour time limit that we have at this time. But I want to thank everyone who attended, and of course, obviously, thank you for bringing the information here with everyone this morning. And we will post some video for folks and be sure to let you know if we have these again. Given current social distancing and physical distancing, this is the best way for us to connect with media all at once.
So, all right, thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody that attended the press conference, and thank you for your questions.
Thank you.